If you want to skip the coming up part, then just jump straight to this timestamp. But watch it still if you can, because I add some extra animations and stuff like that. Let's begin. It's so simple. Like, I can see the potential of these things just to go for so long and be so reliable. Like, even this thing, it's already super duper reliable, and it's made in China. You know, like, I'm not saying Chinese people can't make good stuff, but they tend to cut corners, you know, save $1 here, save $1 there. And yeah, if we actually had like bin one parts, you know, like top bin, instead of just getting them out of the bin, literally, like Gotway tends to do. They just got a big bin full of like old parts and just like hope for the best. The gist of what I gathered from those forums was that there's no reason to change it based on kilometers alone. No matter how many kilometers it's done, if it's working good, just keep going and replace it when it dies or when you kill it. Hopefully you kill it and it doesn't kill you, right? But if it doesn't kill you, then you're still alive, then you can replace it. This thing will get to 8,000, no worries. Which is crazy, isn't it? So you get 8,000 kilometers before you have to do any servicing at all. When I rode a scooter, like, I'm going to talk about, it'll lead on to another topic. I'll talk about my PEV journey, because I started on e-scooters, then went to e-skateboards, and then to EUCs. And I remember from my scooter days, guys, the tires on my electric, it was a Dualtron Raptor. They had little tires like this big. And you had to change them every 800 kilometers. 800 kilometers. 800 kilometers. I just got rid of the thing. Because I realized, dude, 800 kilometers is nothing. 800, like, if you use it to commute, you're going to do close to 100 kilometers a day. Not maybe, depends on your commute, obviously, but say you're doing 50 kilometers a day. So how long is it going to last you? 16 days? It's pathetic. It's absolutely pathetic. And there's 2 tires to change, not just one. And each one is harder than changing one of the EUC tires. It's crazy, guys. 800 mega servicing on that thing. Mega servicing, because think about it. You got to do it every 16 days, and you spend a half a day doing it. 3 hours. So it's like a part-time job. It's like a side job. You know, every fortnight, basically, you got to do your shift, right? Just so you can keep rolling. Just so you can keep getting to your real job. It's stupid. Yeah, the servicing is pretty good on these things. I mean, you could say the skateboard's even better because, you know, it's a 40-second job. You got to do it more often, yeah, but it's just so easy. And aside from that, they're very simple. Just like an EUC, all it's got is a motor, a battery, and a controller. But the safety is just, it doesn't compare to an EUC. When you've got wheels this big, anything can take you out. A freaking cockroach could take you out, you know? Like, you run over the wrong cockroach, and that could be it. Whereas an EUC, you could run over a freaking... This thing was like a top spec skateboard as well, by the way. It was called the Metro Board 55 Mile Slim or something. And it was called a Slim, and it was like this fat, guys. It was this big fat thing. It was huge. I don't know why they called it the Slim. Maybe the original one was the Slim, and as they upgraded the range, it just got fatter and fatter. How's that for camouflage? See that thing? Looks like a stick. I just touched it with the grass. What are you doing on my Sherman? Oh, look at that. See, grab that piece of grass. No, that's eating that piece of grass. Ah, just let go. Trippy. Very trippy. Oh, it jumped. Did you see it? It didn't want to go up into the Sherman. Imagine if this was your backpack, guys. And chuck this on top. Hell of a bag. Built-in Bluetooth. Beautiful. Still missing that screw. Still, like I expected to come back. Magically. Speaking of that, actually, it gives me a good topic to talk about. Like, you know how, and this will just be to start the video off. You know how, like, actually, let me get my tripod. Alright, so what I was going to talk about, guys, is mainboard failure and some interesting stuff I read on the unicycle forums, electric unicycle forums. But yeah, the thing I was going to quickly talk about, it just reminded me, because I was saying that that screw won't magically come back into the screw hole. And it kind of relates to something they talk about in science, that they say that not only the universe came about through random happenstance, but so did life. So did DNA and biology. It just came about just through randomness, right? And let's think about that idea for a second, right? The universe got built by accident, just through random, an explosion, right? The Big Bang. I'm trying to set this down. See, even this can't randomly just sit by itself. There we go. Oh, these airplanes just keep going by. Let's think about it for a sec, right? The universe is extremely complex. I mean, it's just unfathomably complex. It's so complex, right? So let's think about something a little less complex, a lot less complex, far less complex, you know? For example, the Sistine Chapel. The Sistine Chapel was built through intelligence, right? Through intentional, purposeful actions. So let's think about, if we just threw a bunch of rock and sand and dust and dirt into a big open pit, right? And we just wait, and we know that one day the Sistine Chapel will be built by itself through randomness. But it's going to take a long time, isn't it? That's what we understand. We understand that if we wait long enough, something as simple as the Sistine Chapel should be built by itself, right? How long will it take? Maybe 1 billion years. Maybe more. Maybe much more, right? Does anyone really expect that to ever happen? Even after 1 trillion years, 1 quadrillion, quintillion years. Do you think the Sistine Chapel is going to be built by itself? Honestly. Think about that for a second. No, it's not, guys. It's absolutely not. And you might say, oh, there's a slight chance, right? There's always some chance. The chance is so small that it's essentially zero. Even if you waited a trillion times, a trillion times, a trillion times, a trillion years, however long that happens to be, and then you did that a trillion times, and then multiply that by a trillion, you're still not going to get it. That's how small the chance is. It's basically zero, right? It's not going to happen. You're not going to get a Sistine Chapel just by waiting, right? And let's make it a bit more interesting. Let's say, all right, I don't just want a Sistine Chapel. I want a Sistine Chapel, and I want on the inside of one of the walls, I want it to say, "Go, George, go." I don't know. Right? I want it to say, "Go, George, go," in red writing. So we're gonna have to wait even longer. So one day we might get a Sistine Chapel, but I also want it to say, "Go, George, go," inside that chapel, right? Never gonna happen. Neither. Even just "Go, George, go" written on the ground. No Sistine Chapel. Just 3 words written on the ground in red. I want it in red. It's not gonna happen, guys. Not by itself. You could wait trillions of years. You're not even gonna get the word "go," probably. You won't even get the letter G. You might get the letter G. And that's what it's like, because the universe, not only is it super, super complex, but it's got extreme order to it, right? Think about it. If you believe in the standard model where, the Earth is the exact distance from the sun that it needs to be so that life can occur. It's moving at the exact speed it needs to be moving at so it can orbit the sun without getting further away or closer to it. Because if it was moving any faster, it would get away from it. Eventually, it would just be gone. If it was moving any slower, it would be getting closer and it would get sucked up by the sun. It's moving at the exact speed down to the point, who knows, like 0.1 miles per hour, right? It's crazy. And then the moon is moving at the exact speed it needs to move to orbit the Earth. If it was going any faster, it would get away from us. If it was going any slower, it would crash into us, right? Then there's life itself, the DNA code. This extremely complex code that allows life to develop and evolve. You really think that happened by itself, right? Just randomness, just an explosion. That's all we needed. And then wait a trillion years. And you've got life that can build Sistine Chapels. Right? It doesn't make any sense, guys. It makes no sense whatsoever. But anyway, that's enough of that. Let's move to the topic. And that is mainboard failure. Like, this is something interesting. I'll show you. See here, can you see the screen there? See, 1,824 kilometers, right? And actually, I was wondering what will happen when it gets past 9,999. Is it going to have an extra digit there? Right? Well, we can see right now, because these aren't my total kilometers. This is my current trip. So, there you go, 10,098 kilometers. So I've gone past 10,000, guys. I've gone beyond 9,000 and up to the tens. And yes, indeed, it does have the extra digit there. So that's cool, isn't it? So it can get up to 99,999 before it resets. And it makes me think, how long is this thing going to last? How long is this mainboard just going to keep going? Right? And I was thinking, should I actually replace the mainboard, even though it hasn't failed, hasn't shown any problems actually at all? Should I just replace it for safety reasons? Just because it's getting old And it might be a good idea just to change it now before it fails. Because if it fails while you're riding, you can get hurt, right? So replace it preemptively, right? And I was thinking maybe I should, but when? Now? Is 10,000 a good number? 15, 20,000? When should you think, all right, this thing is done enough, time to change it? Well, I looked into it a bit. I read on the electric unicycle forums, there's not many posts actually about this. There's a couple. And what I gathered was you shouldn't worry about it. Someone said that one of the replies was like, if you're just going to change it for safety, then the answer is no. There's no point. If it's not showing any issues, then it's fine. And he referred to someone, I can't remember what the name is, but they had done 30,000 kilometers on some old school wheel, like an MCM3 or whatever. I don't know if it was that exact wheel, maybe even a solo wheel. But they did 30,000 kilometers on this like tiny wheel, right? So this thing could probably do triple that. But their reasoning was also that they said, because someone else brought up that maybe the capacitors can wear out, especially from hot and cold cycles. And someone said that if you look at old guitar amplifiers, like electric guitar amps, they have lots of capacitors inside them and they actually do wear out, but it takes about 30 years of daily use. So you should probably replace your main board once it gets to about 20 years old. Once it's 20 years old, just replace it, regardless of the kilometers. But aside from that, the gist of what I gathered from those forums was that there's no reason to change it based on kilometers alone. No matter how many kilometers it's done, if it's working good, just keep going and replace it when it dies or when you kill it. Hopefully you kill it and it doesn't kill you, right? But if it doesn't kill you, then you're still alive, then you can replace it. And that's it. Just like my 16X mainboard has failed 3 times now. And I replaced it. It's running now. As you saw, just recently, I fixed it up. It's good now. But yeah, you don't need to change it from that. And it just makes me think again how much better this Sherman is than the 16X, because the 16X mainboard, it seems to be failing just from dropping the unit on its side. It might be because I've been drifting it. Like that could have been what caused it. And like the drop could have been like the last straw or something. I don't know, guys, to be honest. But either way, I drift this Sherman all the time and it's never failed because of that. So the mainboard in this thing is like 10 times better. It's 10 times more durable than the 16X one. 16 times. Not just more durable, more robust against impacts and hard use. Like, to be honest, I don't know why drifting would be so hard on the unit, because what happens when you're drifting, you lose traction, right? When you lose traction, you've lowered the stress on the wheel because there's less torque, right? There's less torque being actuated back onto the wheel. How can I explain that better? The more grip you've got, the more force you can put down to the road, right? To the ground. And that happens through the motor, through the controller. So if you've got lots of grip, you've got the ability to really stress that whole system, right? Imagine if you had ultimate grip, like infinite grip. Then you could just crank as much power into it as you want and the wheel wouldn't spin and you'd stress the hell out of it, right? If you had zero grip, it would just be free spinning. There's barely any stress on the system, right? And that's what happens when you drift. When you drift, you lose traction. So it's not free spinning. So there's still a little bit of stress on it, but you've lost traction. So you've gone from what they call static friction to dynamic friction, and dynamic friction is much lower. So you've lost a lot of traction. So I don't believe that the drifting is killing the board. I think it's the just dropping the unit. And if the King Song, it's dying because you've dropped it, it means it could die just from hitting a hard bump, right? Because that's all it is. It's just a shock. You know, the board is inside the casing, right? And you're just hitting the outside of the casing. And the board is in there, like it's just taking a bit of a jolt, and that's killing it. So there's something wrong. They're doing something wrong, these guys, King Song. Whereas Veteran is doing something very right. Because I've dropped that thing just so many times, guys. Even from a decent height. And it hasn't done anything to the main board. So it's exciting to think, like, I'm up to 10,000 kilometers, like you saw. How far will I get with this main board? It's basically all there is. Like, it's the main board, the battery, and the motor. The battery won't need replacement for like 100,000 kilometers, and probably same with the motor. So if the main board can last that long too, this whole thing will just keep going forever, basically. We'll see. But it's exciting to think that I don't need to replace the main board just for safety reasons, you know, just because it's got so many kilometers on it now. That's pretty much it. That's pretty much all I wanted to say, guys. I'm vlogging on my phone, so it's not like, I don't know, it could be even better quality, actually, to be honest. Who knows? But yeah, it's exciting technology, isn't it? Because it's so simple. You know, even when something fails, it's so easy to fix. Just replace the main board, basically. It's so simple. Like, I can see the potential of these things just to go for so long and be so reliable. Like, even this thing, it's already super duper reliable, and it's made in China. You know, like, I'm not saying Chinese people can't make good stuff, but they tend to cut corners, you know, save $1 here, save $1 there. And yeah, if we actually had like bin one parts, you know, like top bin, instead of just getting them out of the bin, literally, like Gotway tends to do. They just got a big bin full of like old parts and just like hope for the best. Nah, I'm joking. They don't really do that, but let's say we had bin one parts and the whole thing was just put together with like ultimate craftsmanship, workmanship, I don't know what the word is, but really good quality control. It could be to the point where these things are so reliable, it's like a computer, which is a funny thing to say because computers are super complex, but they're very reliable. Like, let's talk about a phone, actually. Let's think about a phone, because I know you see a lot of laptops that do actually fail, and desktops too. You know, you get like the odd failure here and there. From what I've seen, though, phones are made very reliably. They hardly ever fail, you know, unless you drop them and stuff. Lots of time, like even if you drop them, they tend to just keep going. So, quick interjection. I said phone, but what I should have said was calculator. Just think about how reliable a calculator is, and that's more comparable to an EUC, because EUCs are pretty simple. You've got a fairly simple electronic system that does have higher power, though. So as long as you've got big enough components and big enough cables, thick cables, there is no reason for a failure. Imagine an EUC that reliable, that the chance of a failure is just abysmally low, where it's like on par with your friggin' chassis splitting in half as you're riding or something, you know, like something that just would never happen unless you're super unlucky. That's what I want. Not just because I want them to go for a long time before having to service them, but it's the safety, the peace of mind. You don't want to ride with just that thought in the back of your mind thinking, this could fail at any moment. And yeah, once they're that reliable, how awesome is that? Because you just got this thing that you know is going to get you anywhere you need to go anytime. It's like, it's crazy. And if they do fail, it's super easy to fix. So there's nothing like it. It's awesome. So all you're going to be doing is changing tires for years and years on the same mainboard, the same battery, same motor. Just change your tires. Even that, it's not very often. Like I get, I've done, I don't know, actually, I reckon 5,000 kilometers on this tire. Let's get it back into the... But at least 4,000 kilometers, which is like 2,500 miles. I've probably done more than that, but look at the tread. See, it's still got plenty. This thing will get to 8,000, no worries. Which is crazy, isn't it? So you get 8,000 kilometers before you have to do any servicing at all. When I rode a scooter, like I'm going to talk about, we'll end the video soon, but it'll lead on to another topic. I'll talk about my PEV journey because I started on e-scooters, then went to e-skateboards, and then to EUCs. And I remember from my scooter days, guys, the tires on my electric, it was a Dualtron Raptor. It had little tires like this big. And you had to change them every 800 kilometers. 800. And it was so hard to change. It was way harder than changing an EUC tire because of how small they were. It was like, I remember the first time I did it, it took me 2 hours of just stressing out, like just stressing for 2 hours, right? Second time, I spent like 3 hours on it and I never even got it on. I was like, I just gave up. So I sent it back to the people that sold it to me so they could do it. And after that, I'd never changed another tire because I just got rid of the thing. Because I realized, dude, 800 kilometers is nothing. 800, like, if you use it to commute, you're going to do close to 100 kilometers a day. Not maybe, depends on your commute, obviously, but say you're doing 50 kilometers a day. So how long is it going to last you? 16 days? It's pathetic. It's absolutely pathetic. And there's 2 tires to change, not just one. And each one is harder than changing one of the EUC tires. It's crazy, guys. 800 is just pathetic, isn't it? But yeah, that's mega servicing on that thing. Mega servicing, because think about it. You got to do it every 16 days and you spend a half a day doing it. 3 hours. So it's like a part-time job. It's like a side job. Every fortnight, basically, you got to do your shift, right? Just so you can keep rolling. Just so you can keep getting to your real job. It's stupid, I think. I find it stupid. Especially because my e-skateboard wheels, they're like this big. Because, I told you after that I bought an e-skateboard. And I found those wheels were lasting about probably over 2,000 kilometers before they looked like shit. And then I would just change them. You could probably still keep going. You definitely could, but they just had like big chunks taken out of them. And I don't know if you can tell, but my eyes like gone red probably. I mean, I can't tell, you can. I think it's gone red, I don't know. I think an insect like bit me in my eye. I have no idea. But yeah, the e-skateboard wheels lasted 2,000 kilometers and they're extremely easy to change. They're much easier than an EUC even. I mean, an EUC is not exactly easy. You got to take it all apart. But that scooter was like 10 times harder than that. Whereas this e-skateboard wheel, to change the wheels on that, it's so damn easy. It takes about 1 minute. All you do is take off one nut, go like this and go like that, put it back on. It literally takes like 45 seconds, guys. It was such a relief when I got onto that mode of transport. And they last longer. So they last longer and they're like 100 times easier to change, literally. Literally 100. And now I'm onto this thing, and I'm happy with this because this lasts even longer, like 8,000 kilometers. But it's obviously harder to change, but not that bad. And it's only one tire. The skateboard had 4 wheels, right? You didn't have to change all 4 at once. You normally change the back ones first, but yeah, the servicing is pretty good on these things. Not much to do. I mean, you could say the skateboard's even better because, it's a 40-second job. And you got to do it more often, yeah, but it's just so easy. And aside from that, they're very simple. Just like an EUC, all it's got is a motor, a battery, and a controller. Often they've got 2 motors, actually, on an e-skateboard. Mine only had 1, though. It had how goofy is that, right? You've got a 4-wheel drive vehicle and it's only powering the back left corner, let's say. And when I first got that, before I got it, I was thinking, is this even going to feel right? Like, isn't it going to turn as it accelerates? But it doesn't really. It's like, you don't notice it that much. It had like a ton. This thing was like a top spec skateboard as well, by the way. It was called the Metro Board 55 Mile Slim or something. Yeah, it was a Metro Board Slim 55 Mile. It was like the longest range out of any skateboard in the world. 88 kilometers. And it was called a Slim, and it was like this fat, guys. It was extreme. The battery, it was this big fat thing. It was huge. I don't know why they called it the Slim. Maybe the original one was the Slim, and as they upgraded the range, it just got fatter and fatter. But yeah, I liked it, and it was, the servicing was great and all that. But the safety is just, it doesn't compare to an EUC. When you got wheels this big, anything can take you out. A freaking cockroach could take you out, Like, you run over the wrong cockroach, and that could be it. Whereas an EUC, you could run over a freaking cat, a dog even, and you just keep going. I would hate for that to happen. I would hate to run over any animal, to be honest, but these things are way safer, way safer than the scooter too. I mean, I can't even stress that point enough.